Hi there. Welcome to the halftime huddle. This is halfway through the week, hump day. For those people who understand what I'm talking about, it's the day middle of the week where you suddenly realise that first half's gone and you've only got the second hand, and you're either if you're in a place where you don't want to be, you're either really what happened? Continue. Oh, there you go. I don't know what that was. Something didn't go live. So I will put that later on. So there you go. This is what it's gone live somewhere. I don't know where. I think it's YouTube. So hi YouTube. Hello everyone. If you're waiting on another place, unfortunately, I won't see you. I'll see you later on. This is what happens when we go live. Sometimes things don't work. In the meantime, just like to say, if you come across this wherever it's gone live, and you've not met me before, I'm Mark Webb. This is the halftime huddle. As I was mentioning before, we got rudely interrupted by the live thing saying whether we've gone live or not. This comes out every Wednesday, and it's an opportunity to take a little bit of a breath halfway through the week to try and catch your breath. We are lucky to have the opportunity to have some lovely, interesting people to talk to, and this week is no different. It's lovely. I'm looking forward to having a chat with Mr. Mark Franklin, who I'll introduce in a bit. He is waiting in the wings, so for me to come along. So I will probably not delay too much, and we'll go straight to Mark. So welcome, Mark.
Hey, how you doing, Mark?
Good. Technical. This is the thing about going live. Things
Of
happen.
course.
Things happen. It's going somewhere. Wherever it's going somewhere, and we're
Yes.
recording. So who cares? So, and welcome, Mark. So, as I said, I'm looking forward to the chat and the conversation today. Um, First things first, for those people who have yet to meet you, and I always start this way, don't know who you are. I'd love to hear, and I call it origin story, and I'm sure other people do the same sort of thing. It's why you do what you do, what brought you to where you are now, and a little bit of how you help people. So, and I'm sure we will then follow that through with some conversation afterwards. So, what is your origin story, Mark?
No worries. What is my origin story? Well, that's a big question. So essentially, my passion has always been sort of creativity and imagination. I was a graphic designer. That's basically my origin story. So all the way through school and into uni, I loved art. That was my passion, art, design, and drawing pretty pictures. And graphic design was my route to sort of problem solving, I guess, because I always liked puzzles as well. And when I talk about problem solving, I guess what I'm saying is this idea of taking your kind of client's message and delivering it in a way that really resonates with their ideal audience. So you're taking whatever it is they want to say, this kind of problem, and resolving it in a manner which is sort of both appropriate and exciting and engaging for the person they want to put it in front of. And I absolutely love that. I still, now that I'm a business owner in my own right, I still very much enjoy playing with my crayons in sort of Affinity or, dare I say, Canva and Photoshop and so on. So I still love that kind of magic of being visual. But the whole thing behind design that really kind of captured my heart, I guess, was the nature of communication, the fact that you communicate through those words and those pictures. And I think that's the real heart of how I got to where I am now, because a career in graphic design led me to working with all sorts of amazing companies and clients and various different people. And one thing I was always passionate about was getting close to those people, getting close to that audience, really trying to sort of truly understand what it is they want, why that's important to them, and therefore what I can do within my sort of design piece, the sort of, the package, the product, whatever it was, um, to hit that mark and really make them want to take action. And to cut a very long story short, I found myself in a wonderful role within a children's book publisher where I was designing on behalf of the sales force and creating all these lovely catalogues and brochures. And we were building incentives and creating events and things to kind of motivate them. And the more time I spent with them, the more I listened to them in terms of, again, what it was that got them up every morning, going out and sharing those books. the more I kind of understood or began to sort of better understand that you can give them the most beautiful brochures and catalogues and tools. If they don't have that clarity within their own mindset in terms of this is why I'm getting up today and going out and putting books in people's hands, they won't do that. And so I found this wonderful kind of magic within sort of the mindset piece of, okay, so how do we connect people to that why? Essentially, that, what it is that I want from this business, from this job, from this sales role as it was in this particular instance. And why is that so important to me that I will go and do something today that otherwise I might not have, forgetting the catalogues and brochures and the pretty things that the marketing team will put in front of me. And that really lit a fire under me, because when I was sort of sat with these people and seeing that kind of mindset move from this is what I want to do, this is what I deserve, how am I going to get from where I am to where I deserve to be, that really triggered something for me. And so I moved away from the design, got into the sort of mindset, personal development, business development, leadership development angle. And the more we focused on these individuals' businesses and journeys and the sort of the sales regions that they were operating in, and the more we helped them unlock that kind of clarity and bravery, the more successful they were. And therefore, the more successful the company was. So the company did pretty well. I got banged up through various promotions and so on, and ended up sort of running the division. But the thing that really kind of triggered for me, as I say, that this wonderful kind of connection, that really sort of powerful emotional piece that now drives me in terms of what I do as a sort of mindset strategist and sort of business coach, is helping people connect really clearly to that very personal why, that purpose, that driver that actually gets them moving closer to what it is that they really want and what's right for them. That's a very long-winded story, wasn't it?
No, that's fine. And as ever, I love the convoluted way people get to where they are at the moment, and start off in one place and then move as life takes them and environments move them through to where they are now, which is why I like to start with this, because it gives a fuller picture of why you are. Because generally, if you start with this is what I do, it doesn't put it into context of how you got to where you got to and why
No, quite.
it's a passion for you, which I presume is one of the things you deal with when you talk to people.
Absolutely, yeah. It's exactly that, as you say. It's that journey which can take all sorts of twists and turns and zigs and zags, and it's helping, I guess, people navigate those zigs and zags. Again, from the mindset point of view, we all encounter those limiting beliefs, those kind of hesitations that might hold us back from doing the things that will actually move us forward. So what I do now is, again, just help perhaps sort of make some of those zigs and zags more gentle curves, as opposed to sort of very sharp, pointy, awkward, course corrections.
Yeah, indeed, and that brings me to very much the if we go back to where you were before, the book in the background, you see the four fears. How does
Yeah,
that fit into the way you work? Can you explain that a little bit more?
I can. Yeah. So the four fears, which is essentially the kind of premise behind the work I do. So I call myself the four fears guy. And the sort of the idea behind this is that those limiting beliefs, those hesitations, the imposter syndrome, the perfectionism, the procrastination, they all sort of simmer down into essentially four core and common hesitations, which I call the four fears. Those being, I'm not ready, I'm not good enough, I don't have time, and what if I fail? And the book is basically a kind of a very gentle summary and introduction to those four hesitations, which we all have. And not all of us are immediately comfortable in terms of talking about them and putting our hand up and saying, today I don't feel like I'm good enough. I don't feel like I'm ready. I'm really struggling with my time management, etc., etc. A book's a lovely way to invite people to just mull over some of those hesitations. And then within the pages, I mean, there's lots of activities and there's lots of kind of hopefully thought-provoking kind of questions. But the point of it is, again, just to kind of normalize those fears, say they're okay, this is what they are, this is where they come from, and this is some very simple, helpful, gentle, but very much sort of effective techniques in terms of embracing them as opposed to dismissing them. They're never going to go away. They're always there because our ancient brains are sort of wired for that kind of protective sort of, I'm going to keep you safe and therefore make you avoid all the things that scare you. So if they're not going to go away, how can we have a better relationship with them? And that's the book, basically. It's kind of introducing this idea of how to have a better relationship with those limiting beliefs so that you can keep moving forward.
I love that idea. I love the idea, and I agree completely that rather than try and front up and face the fear and destroy the fear, the idea is to what can I do to work with it.
Yeah.
And I also love the term hesitations. That's a nice way of being gentle with, as you've mentioned, gentle with you around the fact that these are not blocks. These are not stoppers. They're small, subtle hesitations, and you can hesitate and then move on. So I love the term. So
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. I think there is a danger, as you say, of that sort of that overly firm hand of it'll be fine, you're okay, you're much better at this than you think. Just crack on, just do it. That can be really unhelpful because the origins of those fears can be very sort of deep, and they're all born out of emotion. And so, just to dismiss somebody's emotion, I think is at best unhelpful, and at worst, can be quite destructive. So it's all about, gentle is a lovely word, but it's about a very appropriate conversation with that individual to find out, okay, where have these beliefs come from, and then turning them around in terms of you've got this whole lifetime right up to date in terms of your story so far, all these little pieces of evidence that prove that you are more capable than you think. Let's lean into those and enjoy those and kind of celebrate those and hopefully shift those kind of mind monkeys away from the negative and make them more focused on the positives.
lovely, lovely. I love that idea, and I like the way that you've like I said, the four ways of the four hesitations rather than fears, as you say, which is brilliant. And out of all of them, which would you say was the one that was the most thorniest one that you have to deal with? Which is the one that manifests itself in such a way that is more complex and more most complex for people to deal with, or is there not?
There is. What's really interesting about the four of them is that, spoiler alert for the book, that they all kind of, they interweave, they overlap so much. And when you are thinking about one particular belief, most likely it's born out of one of the others. So this idea of I'm not ready, i.e. the kind of perfectionism, there's something I want to do, but I need a bit more time. I'm going to, which is fear number 3. I need a bit more time. I need a bit more time. It needs to be just right. It needs to be perfect. Because if I don't put it out there, if I put it out there now, it's not going to be good enough. Fear number 2. And if it's not good enough, what will people think? And therefore, they'll have this opinion of me that I've clearly failed. I've got it wrong. Fear number 4. So they all kind of cross over. But I think, come back to your question, the I'm not good enough, the imposter syndrome, the comparisonitis, the looking sideways, I think that's the one that in many of the conversations I have, that's the one that needs a little bit more attention. Because in many ways, as I say, that I don't have time, which if you were to ask somebody, right, you have to tell me which of these 4 fears really kind of hits home with you, putting them on the spot, that I don't have time is the one that people would possibly admit to first because it feels less personal. There's less emotion connected to that. I simply don't have the hours. That's it. It's a fact. But it is that kind of, you probably do have the time, but there's something about these other hesitations that are preventing you from using the time you have to do the things that you should be doing. And that, again, I'm not ready to put this thing out into the world because I need a bit more time, comes back to if I had a bit more time, then it would be good enough. So what is it about this relationship that we currently have with good enough, which is completely subjective, and how can we remind you that actually good enough in the moment is probably a lot better than you're giving yourself credit for? Again, that body of evidence, that kind of history that proves many times in the past you have been more than good enough, and actually good enough doesn't have to be this kind of slightly out of reach perfectionism. It's was it they say progress over perfection. It's doing the thing now in a way that just allows you to learn and move forward rather than not do anything at all.
Brent, and I can definitely see how it is easy to blame the not enough time, which is an external factor. Time is something you can't control. It's not
Yep.
enough of it. I can't do anything about it. It's not my problem, or it's not. Sorry, it's not something I can do anything about because time just rattles on. Whereas, yeah, like I said,
Yeah. It's I mean, again, this is one of those kind of slight not contradictions, but there's a toxicity around time
yeah,
management. I think, in so much as people say, "Well, of course you have time. If you just do the things that are important to you, you will make the time." And in some ways, that's true. If you have that clarity around this is what I need to do, then all the other noise should fade away, and therefore the amount of time you need feels much smaller and more realistic. That's one thing. But again, coming back to it's not really about the time, it's about those other fears, those other hesitations that are stopping you from using the time. Just telling somebody you've got the time to do it if you focus isn't helpful. It's exploring those other things that then give you the confidence and the bravery to say, okay, right, I've only got an hour today, but I know exactly what I need to do because I fully appreciate and connected to and actually excited by where it's going to move me.
no, indeed, yeah, and you're very right. I can definitely see how the interconnection is where
Mm.
the real work begins. And but I can, yeah, you're right. It's the I don't have time that manifests itself first off. But you're right. Probably based around some of the issues you have around perfection, around appearing to be being sort of worthy of what you're doing because you're delivering something that's perfect, etc. And if you're not doing that, you're not worthy. And if you're not doing that, because it's generally because you haven't got time. Quotes.
Yeah. Love the air quotes. Yeah, it is. It is that. But yeah, and again, you're absolutely right in so much as it all overlaps. But still, when someone says to you, "Oh, "I just can't do it because I haven't got time,"
Yeah.
the absolutely wrong thing to do is dismiss that and say, "No, it's not about that. Come on, let's have a deeper conversation." Because you're inviting somebody into a place of vulnerability. This is their story. This is what's important to them. So it's properly listening to that. Okay, you're saying it's the time. Let's look into that. Let's kind of explore your working week. Let's look at some time management and productivity sort of tips and tricks, and get to the point where, in a very supportive and proactive and helpful way, we have proved gently that time wasn't the thing. And now we're getting into the conversation of, okay, so what really is it sort of that's stopping you from ticking off that to-do list, if
Oh,
indeed the
lovely.
to-do list is full of the right things.
Yes, I love that. Sort of feels like a very much peeling the skins off an onion. Sort of the more you pull
Yeah,
down to get to the real root cause. Each of them is, like I say, what I'm gathering from you, each of them is a valid concern, and each of them needs to be addressed as you go along. But once you peel it,
yeah,
there's something underneath that you also just it's reminds me of the fact that the journey's never complete. There's always which
absolutely.
probably um, wraps round to this perfection idea, which is unattainable anyhow. In in
Yeah,
in in in, in all reality, you can just get closer to it, and the only that's all that happens, and it's a journey of continually getting closer to being better at it, rather. And as you said, and we see this. I see this a lot in others, and I would imagine you see the same sort of thing. You talk very much about proof, and let's see. You say that you haven't got the time. Let's see what you do. And if you say you're not worthy, let's test that. Let's see that. And it's very much that apart from what I see. And do you see the same sort of thing? The perfection is they want to make it perfect before they test it out in the real world, and the only real way to find out whether it's perfect is testing it out in the real world. So there's that sort of chicken and egg sort of
completely.
conundrum. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course, particularly with the way sort of technology is evolving now, there's no such thing as like an end product that is finished and that's it. It can never evolve. Every single day, we are fortunate enough to be able to kind of iterate and improve, and it's embracing that journey of micro improvements. That's where the real learning and magic is, as opposed to just saying, right, my website is live, that's it, it's done, good, now I've got a business, that kind of thing.
No, absolutely. And I was again talking to someone recently about where we are in terms of digital products. You're right, very much digital products are easier to iterate and change and like you say, and in that respect, you sometimes get to I would imagine that that also pulls in the, I can do one more tweak, I can do one more tweak, I can do another tweak.
Yes. Yeah, there's definitely a fine line for sure. Yeah, it does become easier to just tinker one more time.
Absolutely, which would again gets behind the it's not quite perfect, quite right yet. And we're very lucky in that respect that we can change things, and if it hits somewhere and you need to do something, you can change it. But that used to be something that was out of reach for product development. But now, even now, with some of the product development tools and techniques that you can use, the same sort of, albeit a slightly slower iterative circle, but the same sort of iterative circle is available now. Do you deal mainly with digital product people, digital services, or is it mixed? Where do you find you spend most of your
It,
time?
I mean, it really is mixed in so much as I love sort of supporting the small business owner, so the sort of the solopreneur,
Yeah,
the new business startup, people who are at the beginning of their journey, and they have that lovely vision, and they're excited and they're passionate, and then they're starting to encounter some of those sort of those worries, those wobbles, and it can be across any sector really. I have an affinity with the creative world again. So yes, designers, web designers, illustrators, artists, copywriters, and so on and so forth. It's a world I'm familiar with, but I think what I love about what I do now, because I'm out on my own as opposed to having a fixed audience in front of me, is it's not about my knowledge. I don't need to know everything about what you do to help you. You need to be connected to what it is you do and why that's important. And all I do is kind of give you the space to really immerse yourself in that and think about it out loud. And then I get the beautiful benefit of learning more about the industry that you work in, and why that is a sort of magical place for you.
no, brilliant. And you are right. There is an ease by which we can communicate with people for whom we have an affinity in terms of, like you say, the creatives. You have an affinity with them because you come from that area and you can communicate with them easily. But it's also uh, I quite like the idea of, like you say, communicating with people for whom you have not the same connection in terms of you understand where they live and what they do and what their life is because you've been there in some respect. But I think that can help because it allows them to get to their roots because they have to explain some of the things that you don't know that
Yeah,
they don't know that you know or don't know. So
yeah.
did you find when you're working in an area where you don't have the same affinity, they get to explore their business in a different way than those people for whom you have that immediate connection.
I think in many ways it helps me do better at what I do because I'm less inclined to think that I know the answer.
Yeah,
So it really is about just sitting back and letting that person having those awkward pauses in the conversation whilst that person in front actually starts to think out loud. So yes, I'm sure. Hopefully, if it's a sector that I'm not familiar with, that kind of freedom and that sort of insistence on my part that all I can do is listen.
yeah.
I can't contribute in the same way. That's really powerful and really important. I think hopefully both sides benefit from that more. Yeah.
No, yeah, brilliant, brilliant. One thing that that has been sort of pulling me back. And I like to talk a little bit about this because I come from a certain feeling, and I used origin story because it's a model and a metaphor that I love, coming from an old sort of an old comic book sort of geek as a youth, and still now. But I love, one of the things that I also love is coming from that is the idea that in some of these, the superheroes in these things are also individuals with their own strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
And I love that it seems to be, for me, the four fears that tie into some of that idea of strengths and weaknesses, and wanting to be perfect, and not wanting to show our flaws, even though as human beings that's part and parcel of who we are. How do you find that? Is that something that you also notice, that they hide behind their strengths too much
Uh,
often?
oh, that's interesting. Well, so first thing I would say is comic book geek too.
Good.
So I'm fully immersed in your world. I love that, and the origin story thing completely works for me. In terms of sort of, I don't know, superpowers and sort of weaknesses, I think what's quite interesting when you have a conversation with, and I don't know if this is more of a British thing um, than universal, but certainly I think it is a human trait that we are quick to admit to our weaknesses
Uh-huh.
and less so with our strengths. So,
Mm.
I mean, again, just going back to one of the first chapters in the book, which kind of illustrates the origin story behind the four fears,
Yeah.
that the meeting or the conversation I was in when I really first noted those four hesitations for the first time was with a group of sales leaders who were phenomenal at what they did. Yeah, they really were the kind of superheroes within the business, just to sort of continue the analogy. But they couldn't see it. They were the ones sat in the room going, "Oh, I don't feel I'm good enough. I wish I could be more like you." Sort of looking across the table, I really admire the way you work. And so I'm very quick to praise and lift everyone else up, but also equally as quick to put themselves down. So I think, if anything, yeah, it's kind of the other way. It's the
Mm.
conversations begin with those weaknesses, and you have to help people remember the strengths that they have.
Intriguing. It's my experience. Now you mention it, you're right. It's easier to see, because essentially, I think we have a habit of noticing challenges and problems, and there is some neurological science behind that, in terms of
Yeah,
it's a lot easier for us to survive if we can see the problems, rather than seeing everything nice and warm and fuzzy, and the world is a lovely, wonderful place. Even though 9 times out of 10 it is a adequate and lovely place, etc., and the problems you see, which is part of where you, I would imagine, you see the challenge for what you face. The problems are not as real as you think they are. But it's also amazing how it's one of those things where I know from being experienced, where I'm trying to encourage people to in interviews for jobs and stuff. They often do the, what's your strengths, what are your weaknesses? It often is the weaknesses in that respect. I don't know why. It may well be that they know their own weaknesses, they just don't want to own it up to in an
yeah.
interview situation. It may well be that situation, that when they're talking with someone like you in the situation, they're a little bit more open to being a little bit more vulnerable than they were in a position where they're needing to show their best face, I would imagine. So, um, do you find, is that what you think might be the behind you exposing that more than maybe in an interview or something?
I mean, the interview process, again, going back to my sort of corporate days and thinking about how many people I interviewed, and when I used to interview, or be interviewed myself, it's a very unnatural
Yes.
environment. And you are sat there as an interviewee, you are trying to be the peacock. You're trying to sort of,
Yeah.
show off in a very sort of modest and appropriate way all the things that you're really good at, because you're going for a job and you want to prove to that person on the other side of the table or on the Zoom call that you are capable and worthy, and they should be considering you. But I suppose when ask that question. It's a dreadful question in an interview as well,
It
isn't it?
is,
What are
yes,
your
I
strengths? What
agree.
are your
Yeah,
weaknesses?
I
Oh, it should be
agree.
should be banned. It
No, I
shouldn't be
agree.
allowed.
I agree.
But yeah, when someone asks you, what are your weaknesses? Again, in that environment, the last thing you want to do is admit that there might be something about you that means you don't deserve this job.
Yes,
so,
yes.
so yeah, it's as I say, it's probably quite an unnatural environment to sort of make the comparison against. Equally, so from the work that I do, in terms of, as I say, typically we're all sort of overly modest, and we
Mm.
like to be humble, and we don't like to sort of show off and brag. But when you're having conversations with somebody and trying to explore some of those wobbles, those hesitations, those limiting beliefs, there has to be a good relationship there. That person has to feel that they can trust you, that this is genuinely a safe space. Because again, as I said before, you're inviting them into a sort of space of vulnerability, and a space where sort of emotions will be kind of exposed and explored. So, in that respect, although that is, as I say, the limiting beliefs are all based in emotion, the solutions are kind of all based in fact. I suppose the point I'm trying to make is, in an interview scenario, you're trying to sort of bombard the interviewer with fact, reasons why you
Yeah.
are good enough. In the kind of emotional space that I operate, we're exploring the reasons why you don't think you're good enough. So that's the flip, I
Yes.
guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can well believe that. And like you're suggesting in that situation, um, they are definitely confronting their the challenge. They're in the situation where they know they're not making progress, and know they're not doing the thing they want to do for some particular reason. So they're looking for the problems or the reasons why
Yeah, yeah,
they're
that's very true.
in
Yeah,
that situation. Yeah. And I also, I mean, one of the other things I love to explore as well, and what came across in your origin journey is how your strength, your creativity, your ability to communicate through a mixed media of images and words and stuff like that has led you through a journey. So you used your strengths to modify and build up new strengths and new skills. So I love that, and I see that in people's journey. Their strength takes them in various different ways. What Because it's an area, and it often takes them on a journey outside slightly some of the areas where they think they would have normally go. And I love hearing that story and your origin story. One of the things that this stream on this video is also here for is I mentioned at the top of the video when we talked about the fact that very much when you're working on your own, you can often start with great intentions at the beginning of the week. And the halftime huddle is here to help support those people who've got through to the middle of the week and all of a sudden realize, where are they? It may be they've run out of time. It may be other kinds of reasons why they haven't got what they got. So I'm intrigued to understand, especially based around some of the ideas and the discussions we've been having here. What are the ways that you support your own journey through a week to keep yourself focused during the working week or the midweek? How do you get over the hump and the hump day?
yeah, really good question. Really good question. For me, For me, time management has never really been an issue. This sounds really modest, but again, because I have that clarity around, it's not about the time; it's about those other things.
Mhm.
So for me, I am always very clear at the start of the week. One of the very first things I do on a Monday morning is map the week out, and it doesn't always go to plan, of course. And this week has been full of plot twists, I have to admit. But just knowing where I want to be by Friday and have that real clarity about why that's important. So again, pulling sort of right back out just from the week to the kind of the bigger picture of what it is I want from my business, where this is going. It could be quarterly, could be yearly goals, or it could just be that emotional sort of driver. Whatever it is, I'm very keen to sort of look at the 5 days in front of me and think, right, this is what I want these 5 days to contribute. in terms of that journey. And when I get to Wednesday, again, as I say, things change, we get surprises, and that's absolutely fine. It's then sort of adjusting and being more realistic. So not beating yourself up. Let's say, for example, I had 10 things I want to do this week and I've only achieved 2 of them. And I'm at a conference all day tomorrow, which means I've now got to do 8 things on Friday, which is completely not going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm not going to beat myself up over that, because if I still have this bigger picture of why am I doing this? Why is it important? Where am I hoping to be? Let's say by the start of next week, then what can I adjust? What can I be flexible with? I think flexibility
Mhm.
and honesty with ourselves is key. It's okay. It's okay not to be exactly where you intended to be at the end of each day. Okay. Give yourself permission to be all right with that, and again reassess as you work forward. Yeah. The best laid plans and all that.
No, indeed, and wholeheartedly agree with that, and wholeheartedly understand and recognise that very much if you keep an eye on um, your reason, your I was going to say the eye on the prize, but the eye on what it is you're trying to achieve, then that does help to keep you focused and keep you taking one step at a time, and an understanding and a recognition that these things you're trying to achieve, your goals, your long-term goals, or whatever your rationale is, as we alluded to in some respects, is a journey, and the journey may take you on a number of side quests, a number of side issues and stuff like that. But it's basically a journey. Yeah, and that's a great attitude, and one thing that I find in my experience is having others to support that, having a bunch of people behind me who, I have my wife behind me, I have my family behind me, I also have some friends and colleagues and other people behind helping you there. So do you have that? Do you find that is a support network that you've built up, or that you use to keep you as well as your own motivation?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I was very lucky. One of the even before I went out on my own, there was sort of a number of people that I was able to sort of talk to and sort of create that accountability with. So, I mean, two ladies that I work very closely with now in a sort of consulting role, Shelley Rosland and Imogen Jones, who are great friends of mine, and we check in all the time. It's like we work in an office together, except for we don't, and we're always kind of just encouraging each other and reaching out and having conversations around how's your day going and what's the plan and so on. And again, life has got in the way for all 3 of us, over the course of our sort of working time together. But just, you're absolutely right, Mark. Having someone else just to say, you know what, it's okay. You didn't get that done today, but there's always tomorrow. Can be really, really helpful. Really helpful. And also, one of the things I actually surprised myself with, if I'm honest, again, as soon as I stepped away from the corporate world and went out on my own, and I wasn't planning to do this, but I did actually stumble across an amazing business coach who really did help me with my kind of framework and setting the business up. And that was just invaluable. Again, that accountability, just having someone to check in with and just ask the right questions. It will almost kind of sort of reinforces the work that I do, knowing that I myself need it too. So yeah, that's been fantastic as well.
No, no, and I like the fact that you've sort of organically found that kind of support network that you need, and I second the benefits and the supreme opportunity that comes with having someone like a coach behind you and supporting you. There's no surprise that the sportsmen and all the good stuff have these people behind them and supporting them, and they don't do these things on their own. They have someone to help them and to understand and recognize and to keep them focused. I noticed you highlighted the idea of you mentioned a conference as a way. Do you do that kind of other connecting to other businesses through conferences, through say networking and other kinds of stuff? Is that another thing that helps and supports you to keep yourself motivated.
Very much so, yeah. And as you were just talking there, I was thinking about sort of one of the many benefits of having those people around you. Just coming back to the four fears, is when you're completely isolated on your own,
Mm-hmm.
the louder those fears can be.
Yeah.
Whereas if you've got other people around you, the easier it is for them to help you contain and sort of manage those hesitations. And networking used to be a swear word to me, if I'm honest. I found the whole sort of concept of it being just to be really just unnatural. But just over a year ago, I thought, here I am, sat on my own at my desk. Yes, I've got this kind of support group and people who are encouraging me, but I need to get out and about. Also, it's a great way to grow your business and meet more clients, etc. But I never fully appreciated that sort of the value of that sort of human connection. Really, again, just having conversations with people from completely different walks of life, completely different businesses, not ideal clients. I'm not an ideal client of theirs, so there's no kind of ulterior motive or sort of anything kind of salesy. It's just listening to good people and just having an hour or 2 hours, just investing back in humanity. Essentially, it sounds a bit over the top, but it has been wonderful. It's been really, really positive, and now I'm probably a bit of a networking junkie, if I'm honest. I'm probably overly addicted, and maybe need to spend a bit more time working. But yeah, that has been huge.
No, no, indeed, and I think a lot of people, uh, not that this is necessarily about networking in particular, but a lot of people do for some find some of them, or have a feeling that they're going to networking and it's a sales pitch, and people steer away from, even though they run a business and they have to do some level of sales, they run away from
Yeah,
being salesy. And they think networking is a salesy operation, whereas, as you say, it's a human connection operation.
yeah,
It's the sort of thing you used to do in corporate, where you'd go and meet your colleagues and the people who are running different departments at a social. You'd meet them at the coffee. You'd have lunch with them. That kind of level of connection you'd make in an organization. It's just you when you're running a business on your own, you have to find different ways to do that.
yeah,
And you build the same sort of level of connection. In a corporate, you will pass work to various other colleagues in the work environment, because essentially you know that it may not fit your remit and your thingy. You know someone over in X department who does that. You pass the work over to them, and it's the same with a network rebuild. Um, in and I think people initially, until, like I say, they get the aha moment, like you seem to have come across. Initially, they forget that that's what the networking is really about.
completely. Yeah, yeah. It's you can't overstate the importance of being in a room with real people. I think it's as solo business owners who are applying all of their energy into this kind of venture that they're passionate about. You're giving all the time, and that can be potentially quite dangerous in terms of your own energy levels and again your mindset and so on. So to be able to be in a room and absorb some of that kind of infectious energy and that kind of have that ripple effect of contagious positivity once you're in the right room. Because going back to what you were saying, Mark, yes, some networking groups are not right for some people, and it's finding that right tribe, I guess, is the word that everyone bandies around. It's finding your tribe, and being in that space where you do feel lifted up and energized by by the conversations. Once you've found that, then it gives you that kind of excitement back. So many's a time I've left a sort of a networking event or a sort of conference and come back just not only full of ideas, but feeling a real sort of clarity and enthusiasm as to actually get it done, as opposed to just having a notebook full of scribbles that I might get to eventually.
No, and I love that, and I love the when you in your last sort of piece, you were talking about the fact that when you're sat on your own, the voice of the fears is louder than potentially when you've got other people around you, and you've got also these other people around you who can oftentimes see the fear for really what it is, and they can
Yeah,
talk you around some of these challenges that you see, especially when you talk about comparissionism and
Mm.
I'm not worthy sort of thing. The you know they can see from the outside that you don't have. So it's definitely something you can pick up and finding again that word that gets bandied around and is building up an energy of as a cliche, but that word, the tribe,
Yeah,
your people is something that I think is you're right. It's essential to finding the right space to connect, keep connected. We're a social animal, and if you take social out of what we do, then that's a challenge, not a
yeah,
benefit. We need to get back into doing some more social stuff.
very
Um,
much. Yeah.
yeah. So, in terms of the we're going back to the fears now. Where do you the work I would imagine is ongoing from what I get a sound that essentially once you peel one layer of a sort of connection of the fears away, there's another bubbling connection underneath, and it's an ongoing work. So how do you still have a coach? Do you still do the work on? I'm intrigued to know how do you do the work on yourself, because it's the same sort of thing. We have these people around you
So
bubbling.
at the precise moment in time, I don't have sort of a coach that I am directly sort of accountable to.
Yeah.
Again, I've got a sort of a network of very close people. I have an accountability buddy
Yeah.
who I do a lot of sort of regular calls with, and we just check in on each other. Um, but yeah, it's I think again from the conversations that I get to have with people, those themselves are hugely sort of valuable and informative in terms of me thinking, okay, this is a new way to ask that question in the future. So I learn an awful lot from the people in front of me. That I think is again where I find my biggest joy. Really, 'cause it benefits me. I had the vision for what I do. I always really struggle with this idea of write your business vision. What is it you stand for? And that doesn't always sit comfortably with me. But the vision that I always had was this idea of helping everybody. So was it provide everybody with an opportunity to write a better story
Mhm.
for their business, for their family. So my role is to kind of create the space where you can essentially move forward in the way that's absolutely right for you. And that sounds very sort of selfless and wonderful. How generous of you, Mark. That's great, but there's a hugely selfish element in that, in so much as that's what I'm getting from this. You know, I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm you know topping up my skills and finding new ways of, like I say, asking that same question, but in a more nuanced or more appropriate way for a completely different person who's in front of me today as opposed to yesterday. So you're learning all the time. I guess is the brief point. Learning all the time from these amazingly different, diverse people that I'm lucky enough to have conversations with.
And I love that. And you're not the first person to suggest that you learn a lot from the people you interact with. In terms of coaches learn a lot from the people they coach. The other thing that I notice a lot is when you're having these conversations with people to help and support them in group activities, the same sort of thing happens, because generally um, we face the same sort of challenges, even though we might be in slightly different positions and we might be in slightly, different stages of the journey. We're meeting similar types of challenges, and helping and supporting other people through that challenge. Also, and as you sort of suggested, I love the fact that you're confirming that message, that as you help and support other people through that challenge, you're learning from their experiences as well, and you're getting little aha moments as you go along, thinking, oh, maybe that thing I've just been talking to them about, I will try myself.
Yeah, totally, absolutely. Yeah, there's that lovely stories or parable, whatever it is, about the guy who falls down into the hole, and he's kind of shouting up, asking for people to kind of help him so on, and ultimately his best friend sort of climbs down into the hole with him, and he says, now there's two of us stuck here, and sort of his friend says, yeah, but I've been here before and I know the way out. It's you're absolutely right, Mark. Lots of people may have experienced what you're currently experiencing. You just don't know that yet because you haven't had that conversation. They might have a way out of the hole for you, and equally, as you rightly say, um, that friend will learn something from helping someone else out. We are. I think we forget when you think about all the kind of news and noise on social media, all that sort of stuff. You forget just how very generous we are as a species, actually, or how generous we can be. And in those kind of networking meetings and conversations and so on, I think that generosity shines through. I think we are, as you say, we're a social species, and we are more inclined to want to help somebody than not, typically. And I think that's something we kind of need to keep exploring and reminding ourselves.
No, no, I think that's very right, and I think that's that's part and parcel of the way we work as a species is we recognize that uh, we are we are as a species greater when we work together than we are when
Mm.
we work individually, and even though we may at some stages have to put some of our own desires and our own needs to the back a little bit, it does raise us up by helping and supporting other people. And
Yeah,
there's time to go back to some of those things you need to do. But we are as a species better when we support and grow each other. And I think
definitely.
you're very right that even though we don't necessarily um, always have that front of mind, it is something that's built into our general DNA. We know instinctively that by helping someone, we help each other.
Yeah,
Uh, I think
yeah.
that definitely comes across in the more you meet and the more you meet other people. Um, so when I hear you talk about the things you do with individuals, do you find that you work better one on one individually? Is this something that is something that is something that you do with an individual, or do you find that you gravitate towards working as a group, which is your
I enjoy both. I enjoy
yeah
always working. I'm probably doing more one to one at the moment than anything else, which is absolutely fine. And again, you get that sort of wonderful kind of insight into somebody, and you can feel the difference that you're making. I think that there's much more tangible when you're working one to one. I love doing sort of workshops and working with teams and bigger groups because the beauty of that is you can see people helping each other. It's
yeah
not all just one voice from the front telling you what you need to do to dial down those fears, that everyone's working together. And again, there's a huge joy from that. I've been speaking on stage for many, many years, and sort of looking now to continue that further with the four fears. Because again, coming back to the sort of the model with the book, when you're stood up on stage presenting to an audience and talking about the fears and exploring these ideas of not enough time isn't really about not enough time, etc., etc. You're inviting the audience on their own terms, in their own sort of safe space, without having to put their hand up or stand up and say it out loud, just to contemplate, what these fears mean to me. Are they a thing for me? If they are, what can I do about it? So I love that as well, because you're just starting to encourage people to think, oh, hold on a minute, I've been thinking this, and perhaps that's wrong, and maybe there is an opportunity for me to do something about it. So I'll work any way I can, Mark. I'm perfectly, yeah. I'm a complete floozy. Yeah, whatever, it works. But I just really enjoy. I just love seeing that person, people, group, team, audience in front of me, and hopefully seeing some smiles and laughs, and also some kind of light bulbs going off in terms
yes
of that. Oh, hold on a minute. Yeah, like you say, it's not all doom and gloom. It's not just about the weaknesses. I have strengths. I actually am better at this than I've been telling myself. Maybe
Indeed.
maybe leaving the room or the conversation with a slight bounce in their step would be good.
Good, good, and like I said, part of the reason that I sort of explored this is because it seems to be from some of the things you were saying, and you've explained it there is this sort of uh, your gentle exploration of this would be aided by others helping and interweaving with the exploration of the individuals as they explore their own relationship with these fears and where they are in them and what peeling back, going back to this onion thing, peeling back one layer of this onion feels to the individuals in the group and how they can share with that. So I love the fact that you're exploring that, because that's for me a wonderful way of seeing the nature of us as a social animal and as a finding the tribe and finding the support you get. Um, so um, so it more power to your elbow in that respect.
Thank you.
So one of the things you talked about, sort of doing more sort of public speaking and and stuff with the Four Fears framework in the book. Do you have anything sort of upcoming that you could share with for others who, if they're coming to see, or they can go and see you?
Yeah, so I keep thinking it's next week, but it's not. It's the week after. So there's an event in Poole in Dorset on the 13th and 14th
Oh, okay,
of
yeah,
May, which is Creator Day, which is an amazing, again, a real community event pulled together by a chap named Mark Masters.
yeah.
And
Another
I'm
great name.
speaking.
I remember Mark is more power to the elbow of the Marks.
All marks, yeah, that's it. We're changing the world,
Yeah,
honestly. But yeah, and I'm speaking on the first evening, just a little sort of 10-minute sort of session around failure. So our relationship with sort of failure, what that actually means to each of us, and sharing my origin story, actually, just to steal that phrase back. So that's going to be fun. It's I believe it's more the merrier. So I think there's still kind of availability if anyone wants to sort of join that. And then yes, then I'm sort of putting my hands up and saying, right, what's next? So available for speaking
brilliant, brilliant.
opportunities and much more.
I second. It's You Are the Media, isn't it? Mark
That's
Masters
the one. Yeah,
group. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Creator Day with You Are the Media. I will put a link in comments as well for those people who want to go along and find out.
fantastic.
Unfortunately, it's my wife's birthday, so I can't make it.
That's
I
a
don't
good
think
reason.
I did consider to see whether I could sort of suggest that it would be a great birthday present for her, but I don't think she'd buy that.
Well, it's a night away by the seaside.
Absolutely, a night away.
Not that
It's
difficult to
it's
tell.
in Poole, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
Poole's quite nice. There's some good stuff going on, but I don't think I'm going to be able to get away with that. So it is with a
Fair
bit
enough.
of shame, because it sounds like it would have been a great meetup, and I was looking forward to seeing the other Mark, and you if you were there.
Yes.
So, ignore all that. One thing before we go, and this is one of my favourite pieces of what we do here. Thank you very much for your time, and there's loads of stuff
Wow.
to discuss, and I'd love to bring you on again. It sounds very cliche, and it sounds very sort of sounds. I'd love to have you, because essentially we've been talking here for almost an hour, and we've got a little still bit more to go. We could talk for hours, and I know that then we may drop off a load of people if we did that. So maybe the only way to do that is to come and do it in drips and drabs. I'd love to come here, have you on again, and the exploration of the word failure. I'd love to spend a bit of time on that with you, because it's one of my favorite words, the word failure. But we'll talk about that later. So there you go.
Definitely.
Watch this
Yeah, that'd be
space.
great.
Watch
Yeah,
this space. But in the meantime, before we do wind up, the one thing that I really need to keep going is, and it's more for me than, so we could almost turn the recording off. I like to ask the question that I've been saying, and I still believe I've nicked it off Tim Ferriss rather. He, in his podcast and stuff, he used to ask people what book they would recommend, not necessarily the book that they is their favorite book, because for anyone who reads a lot and is interested in ideas and stuff, their favorite book changes with the wind.
Yep.
Whereas what they recommend is a little bit more permanent, a little bit more indicative of what they value as a book to share. So, with that in mind, I've given you a little bit of a heads up. What book
Yep.
would you offer up as the book you recommend?
So many spring to mind. I think I'm going to choose a book called Life Will See You Now by Gavin Oates. Gavin is a speaker, again, sort of a mindset coach of sorts. So I think that probably does him a disservice because he's much better than that. He's a real charismatic character, a comedian as well. I think he's performed in the Edinburgh Fringe for a number of years in the past. But his style of writing, in terms of, again, life is this brief period. It starts, ends, as you said before, Mark. Time is limited. We don't control that. So how can you make more of that wonderful opportunity that you have from the start to the finish? It's a beautiful book. It's really light. It's easy to read. It's hilarious. Gavin is, when you find people and you're like, I'm going to subscribe to their newsletter, I'm going to hang off their every word, their LinkedIn posts are brilliant, everything they do is just magical. Gavin is one of those guys. I just absolutely love him. So that book, and I will even give him a plug for his next book, which is coming out in October, which is called Confidently Lost. So I've just got it open to remind me. But yeah, he's an author to definitely celebrate. So Life Will See You Now, Gavin Oates.
Brilliant! I love that, Ted. And that is a book that's off my radar. So it's a win for me. So I will definitely chase it up. Thank you very much for your time. Like I said, this time has flown by, and I've loved having this conversation. I hope you've found it interesting too.
No, thank you. Honestly, brilliant. So
Brilliant.
Really appreciate it, Mark. Thank you.
Good. I will catch you again. Enjoy your other media in a couple of weeks. I'll be very jealous, but I will be having a lovely time with my wife. So I will completely forget it, and we will see each other again. But in the meantime, I just got about to say goodbye to those people who are watching. Thank you very much for the time. I hope you've enjoyed this. What seems like a brief time, but it's flown by the time. Do chase up Mark. And before I go, I've done one thing I haven't forgot. I hope, Mark, are you still there? Mark,
I'm still
I forgot
here.
to ask you, where can they find out more about you? I know a little bit, but if you want to share sort of where's the best place to find out more about you and what's going on and to get your book.
Okay, so I hang out on LinkedIn mostly. So if you just search Mark Franklin UK, I think it is, or markfranklin.uk. In fact, all of my social handles are Mark Franklin UK in some various forms, or the website, which again is the really original markfranklin.co.uk. And there's links, the links to the book on the website, or you can just search How to Embrace the 4 Fears of Business Ownership on Amazon.
Brilliant. Okay, we will do that. I'm not going to go away this time. I've said my goodbyes. Thank you very much for spending the time with us. And for those who have been watching this, please do say hi in the replay. Please do follow Mark. Go and check out his book. And if you're lucky enough to be free in a couple of next week or the week after, I think it was we were saying.
Week after, yeah.
The 13th, week after, 14th, yeah. Then do come along to Poole and say hi to him there. But in the meantime, I hope the second half is your best half, and we'll see you soon.